Hey guys, Sean here and welcome to the F1 Word. Now it's been a busy start to the week in F1 with 2 launches already done and out of the way, and we've had an update on sprint races, shortened races and a little bit more. So today I'm going to run through some of those rule changes and give my thoughts on the new Williams that we saw earlier today. But first up, on Monday, AlphaTauri launched the AT03 online, releasing renders of the new car in its new livery. And whilst it wasn't the team's full-spec 2022 car, which can be said about most of the cars we've seen so far, it was certainly more than just a paint job on a show model. The AT03 includes design features such as the pushrod front suspension layout with a pull rod layout at the rear, which is the opposite to the way McLaren went, for example. They've also gone with the box-shaped inlets on the side pods, similar to what we saw on the Aston, and the nose is connected to all 4 front wing elements, which is actually different to how Aston and McLaren have gone about things for this year. But as keeps getting mentioned, the cars we are seeing at launch are all far from the finished articles, and we'll get to see more at the first test next week. And they'll likely change again by the time we get to the second test, and they'll probably change again before we get to that first race in Bahrain. I can't wait for the development race this year. Those are obviously just some of the bullet points. If you would like a little bit more of an in-depth read on AlphaTauri's design, then check out Matt Summerfield's analysis over on motorsport.com. I will pop a link in the description to that. I've said it before a lot, and I will say it again. I'm not great with the technical stuff, and I've learned over the years I've been uploading to this channel, there is no point pretending otherwise. So bullet points and a link to some proper analysis is probably for the best. As for the livery though, it is a nice evolution of what we saw last year, and as a first impression, I think it's a bit nicer than the AT02 if I'm being honest, especially from that side view. I'm a big fan of this one. And those sweeping lines in the livery on that side view, they do help to show off the side pods tapering nicely towards the rear of the car. But honestly, I still think the first livery they had as AlphaTauri in 2020 is my favourite. It reminded me of the 2000 Williams, and that is one of my all-time favourite liveries. So yeah, maybe a little bit biased there. Like I say though, I'm really liking this year's look so far, and I reckon it's going to be one of those that looks even better once it's out on track. What I'm not quite so keen on though, or at least it's raised a few concerns for me, is something that Franz Tost said following the launch. It was hoped that the new regulations would allow for better, closer racing, but Tost has said that he thinks the cars may still struggle to follow at high speeds, because with the cars being so wide and the new bigger tyres, dirty air will still trail behind them, and so he's, quote, not sure that it will be so easy to follow. Obviously, dirty air was never going to be completely eradicated. It was only ever going to be reduced. So I'm hoping he's wrong on that one. However, the AlphaTauri boss does think cars will be able to follow more easily through the slower mid-speed corners, which is good news. Thumbs up for that one. And of course, in reality, we won't know for sure until we get to that first race in Bahrain how the new rules have affected racing, but I thought it was worth a quick mention. As well as getting our first look at the new AlphaTauri on Monday, we also got some news from the FIA regarding sprint races and a few other interesting changes set to take effect ahead of the new season. However, there was not really any update on the investigation into what happened in the Abu Dhabi finale last year, other than to say that the analysis is still ongoing, there will be news soon, discussions with the teams and drivers were good, and that according to the new FIA president Mohammed Ben Sulayem, he's quoted as saying, "We can only go forward. This is important for the FIA, for the integrity of the FIA, and for the sport. We can only improve for the future." But we can expect to hear more in the coming days, including an expected restructure of race control, with some reports claiming that we could even have an off-site team that will take responsibility for many of the decisions. Keep an eye on that one. That should come in the next few days. When it comes to sprint races for 2022, it was expected that we would see 6 events. However, it has now been confirmed there will only be 3 this coming season, and they will be at Imola, Austria, and in Brazil. The session will be renamed simply Sprint rather than Sprint Qualifying, and there will be more points on offer as well. So, instead of the 3 points for first, 2 for second, and 1 for third that we saw last year, points will be awarded all the way down to 8th place, with 8 points for the winner, 7 for second, 6 for third, all the way down to 1 point for the driver who finishes in 8th. Hopefully that change will encourage a little bit more racing through the field rather than drivers playing it safe and just following each other to the flag. Of course, you don't want to send it up the inside for P10 if it's going to risk a collision and put you at the back of the grid just for the sake of moving 1 place up the field and no points. So hopefully that will change that. On top of that, the title of pole position will go to the driver who sets the fastest time in Friday qualifying. But just to confirm on this, the driver who wins the sprint on a Saturday will still start P1 for the Grand Prix proper on Sunday. Basically what it means is that when it comes to a sprint weekend, the phrase pole position is really just for statistical purposes to avoid confusion in the record books. Taking pole on Friday only puts you P1 for the sprint. It does not give you P1 for the race. You've got to win the sprint to do that still. As if that wasn't all enough, there were also changes announced to how shortened races will work in future and how points will be handed out so we don't see a repeat of the Spa farce from last season. Previously, only 2 laps had to be completed for the race result to be declared, and if less than 75% of the race distance was covered, then just half points would be awarded. But from this coming season, assuming everything gets approved at the World Motorsport Council meeting, of course, a race can only be called if 2 laps of racing have taken place without a safety car or virtual safety car intervention. So to keep it very, very simple, a race can only be declared if there has actually been a race. If, though, we do not get those racing laps, then no points will be awarded at all. Brace yourself for this. So if more than 2 laps but less than 25% of the race has been completed, then points will be handed out to the top 5, with 6 for the winner, 4 for second, 3 for third, 2 for fourth, and 1 for fifth. If we hit 25% but less than 50%, then points will be awarded to the top 9, with 13 for P1, 10 for P2, 8 for P3, and then 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 down to that 9th place. And if we get more than 50% but less than 75% of a race, then it's points for the top 10, with 19 for the win, 14 for P2, 12 for P3, and then 9, 8, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1 for the rest of the top 10. I hope you followed that. I'm not sure I did. And of course, if we get more than 75% of the race, then it will be full points as usual. Look, it's a good change because Spa was a joke and certainly wasn't a race, but it does seem, I'm going to say harsh, that half of the top 10 could miss out on points because less than 25% of the race has been completed, but only 10th place misses out if under 50% is completed. So 24% of the race, then points are only going to the top 5, but 25% of the race and it goes to the top 9. I'm sure there's a great reason as to why they've gone with that, but look, at least it has been addressed, and I hope we don't have to see these new rules used anytime soon. After all, shortened races aren't generally a regular thing in F1. They happen, of course they do, but it's not like it's every other weekend. And finally, Williams pulled the covers off the FW44 today, but not really. Yeah, the car unveiled at the digital launch was actually a version of the F1 show car rather than the full version of the Challenger they will be running in 2022. So we're going to have to wait a little bit longer to get a look at the definitive FW44 as we did with the Red Bull, of course. All we can really look at then is the new livery, and I'm going to say this now. I hated the team's 2021 livery at launch. I say hate, it's probably fairer to say I just wasn't sold on it. But as soon as I saw it out on track, I absolutely loved it, and I suspect it will be the same with the 2022 livery, although I'm actually more keen on this than the 21 launch. I really like the simplicity of it. It's nice and clean, and the addition of the red is a nice touch as well. And if you're wondering why the red is there, Jos Capito said that the red was there to represent the fact Williams is a proud British team. So there you go. Look, I like it. I really do, especially the diamonds on the engine cover and the differing shades of blue. It's quite an elegant design. Is that the right word? That's the word I've gone for. And it does feel like a Williams livery as well. I can't explain what I mean by that other than to say that I look at that livery and I do think Williams, which I guess means its brand marketing has worked on me at least. It's just a shame it's on a show car, so there isn't much to analyse. As has been the case with Williams over the last few years, you could throw Haas in there as well. It is a little bit concerning to see a lack of sponsorship on there, but the name Duracell is on there to represent their new deal, which is cool to see. And it's encouraging that they are getting these deals done, and I hope they can have a really good season so they can start to fill that car up quickly. I know Dorilton have got good money behind them. I know that Nicholas Latifi's backers have got good money behind them, but I'd like to see some more sponsors on that car. The drivers are both looking forward to getting behind the wheel of the FW44 and both like the livery. No great surprise there. They're not going to come out and say it's terrible, are they? And Jos Capito says that the livery encapsulates the strength and sophistication of Williams racing, but highlights the transition into the future while still acknowledging, quote, timeless qualities that make us who we are. Anyway, not really an awful lot to say, to be honest. There's not really anything to talk about, is there, other than the livery? But I will say I can't wait to see the real proper FW44 when it hits the track, either in a shakedown or during testing next week. Oh, and actually, super quickly before I go, we are not set to officially see the new Alfa Romeo until the first test, and it won't be formally launched until February 27th. However, Motorsport.com has put out some exclusive photos of the C42 in a camouflage livery at a shakedown in Fiorano. The car was driven by Valtteri Bottas, who was sporting a plain black helmet, and is expected that the camo livery will be the paint job used for the first test in Barcelona next week. So, not an official launch, but at least we got to see the new Alfa Romeo in what is a very, very busy week. We've still got Ferrari to launch on Thursday, of course, and Mercedes on Friday. That is it then for this, I'm going to say roundup, but let me know down in the comment section what you think of the new AlphaTauri and Williams cars and what you think of that new Alfa as well. And also, how are you feeling about the changes announced to sprint races and shortened races? Now, I will be back on Thursday with some reaction to the new Ferrari, but in the meantime, if you did enjoy this one, then please do leave a like as it really does help out the channel, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos or streams. Lots to come over the next few weeks and over the course of this season. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.